Okay, so good evening. Thank you to you wonderful people of Whiskey Group for being here tonight. And if you're watching this video later on the showcase, welcome to you as well. My name is Attila. This is assignment 2 for the 3240 PIDP course. I am grateful to be delivering this presentation from New Westminster, which I would like to acknowledge is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples in the Kwiklet Nation. In just 33 days, the United States is going to be holding their presidential election. And while we as Canadians don't have a horse in the race, as they say, the outcome will definitely affect Canada. The United States is our biggest trading partner. They're our closest neighbor, and we share the largest land border. But don't worry, this is not going to get political, I promise. Think of this lesson as a primer for election night, which happens to be November 3rd. And if on that night you're watching the results at home on TV, you're probably going to hear some terms and numbers and phrases that are election-esque. And this lesson is going to cover a lot of what I would expect you to hear. So here is what's on the ballot for tonight. We're going to kick off with a fun little quiz I put together. The idea is not so much to test anyone's knowledge, but there's some research and theories that suggest pre-testing can actually help learners retain information. I'm then going to get into the meat and potatoes of the topic, which is going to be a high-level overview of the voting process and how the president is chosen. We'll take a look at the Electoral College and the numbers involved. Plus, I'll throw in some interesting facts and trivia along the way. And then to wrap up, I'm going to introduce you to a cool website that allows users to become interactive with the Electoral College map and enrich their learning. So let's get started with the quiz. I'm just going to bring it up onto the screen here, and I'm going to share the link into our chat session. So I'm going to copy this link here, and then we're going to go into chat. Pardon me.
Just put your name in, hit start.
Yeah, just put your name in and hit start. I see Pete's joined, Don's joined, and Paul's joined. Awesome. All right, so from this point forward, you're going to watch the quiz screen. I'm going to present the leader's view here. It's 5 questions. They're multiple choice with 4 answers each. If you get the answer right, you get points. If you get the answer wrong, you don't get any points. And the quicker you answer, the more points you get. So it's kind of like fastest finger, get it right. All right, so let's go ahead and start.
To become president of the U.S., a candidate needs to win the majority of which below.
All right, so that was question number 1. And let's see the results. So Don is on the leaderboard to start us out tonight. Pete and Paul, you got some catching up to do. So let's go with number 2. Next question. Great. So question number 2. Question number 3 now. All right. And then let's take a look at our leaderboard. Well, up in first place is Pete. Shortly behind him is Paul, and then Don. Great. So which state has most electoral college votes? California. There we go. So it's anybody's race, anybody's race. So this is question number 5, I believe.
Hmm.
All
I
right.
just don't
So
know my politics.
all right. So that was just a little fun quiz. I didn't expect
Oh
people to get
boy.
any of the answers, and that's great because we're going to talk about that in the session. So let's see. Do we have a winner? In first place was Pete. Congratulations, Pete. All right. So I'm gonna get rid of this now, and we're gonna go back to our presentation. So we're gonna just go ahead and close that little window where you had the quizzes running, and if you want to come back to our Zoom presentation, we're going to talk about the voting process. All right, so on the first Tuesday, following the first Monday in November, which for this year will be November 3rd, Americans are going to cast their vote for president, but they won't be voting directly for a candidate, even though the ballot will have the specific names of the candidates printed on them. Instead, these voters will go to vote to win for a candidate's state slate of electors, who they in turn will cast their vote for president. These electors are what form the Electoral College, and each college has their own slate per state. It is the Electoral College that actually chooses the president and not the popular vote. The winning electors by state will vote in each of their state's capital on the Monday following the second Wednesday in December, which this year happens to be December 14th. Then on January 6th, the joint houses of Congress will come together and the votes will formally be counted. And then on January 20th, the president will be inaugurated. 5 times in American history, the winner of the Electoral College vote and the person who ultimately became president was not the candidate with the most votes of the American people. So let's unpack the Electoral College. Firstly, let me say the Electoral College has nothing to do with any higher learning institution, as the name college may suggest. But in 1778, when the framers of the Constitution were deciding on how presidential elections would take place, they arrived at the decision of using electors as the method for choosing the president. They went this route for the following reasons. They thought it would be fairer to the smaller states and to ensure that they had visibility and consideration so that the candidates didn't just need to court the vote of the more populous states. And also keeping in mind, they didn't have cable news and Twitter. It hadn't been invented yet. So they figured the average citizen was both physically distant and potentially unconnected and unaware of the politics happening in Washington. Therefore, state electors as a conduit made sense. The electors themselves are party loyalists and may have been appointed by a party or voted in by party members. In total, there are 538 electoral college votes. The number 538 is made up of the total number equal to the House of Representatives from each state. As House members are apportioned based on a state's population, more populous states like California will have more electors than a less populous state like Wyoming. In addition, each state gets one electoral college vote for each of its senators. Every state, regardless of its population, has 2 senators. The District of Columbia, which is not really a state, does get 3 electoral college votes. However, the territories like Guam, US Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, they get 0. Even though there are a total of 3.2 million US citizens living in the US territories, they do not get a vote on election day. The magic number to win the majority of the electoral college vote is 270. So if you take the 538 electoral college votes and you divide it in half, you get 269. Add to that the one more vote you need to secure the majority, and you get 270. If a candidate does not secure 270 votes, then a contingent election happens. And in this scenario, the House of Representatives, that's the lower house in Congress, chooses the president by vote. Each state gets 1 vote. And the Senate chooses the vice president, and each senator gets 1 vote. The thing to note here is that it's the newly appointed incoming House and Senate that would make this determination, should it be necessary. I think one of the best ways to become familiar with the Electoral College is to check out some of the many online interactive maps that allows users to choose states and predict outcomes. I particularly like this one here. which is 270 to win, as it allows you to see a variety of different scenarios. So you can see here, this is the 2020 consensus map with who's leading and who's trailing. You can actually go back and look in history and see different elections. So for example, you can see what happened in 2016. You can see the actual election in 2016 and what it looked like. And what you can do is you can be interactive with the map. So Montana, for example, you know, it could be a blue state eventually. You can actually go ahead and you can click on it and then just change it. Another cool thing, actually, just to point out here, is some states, it will show you how they voted for the last 20 years. So some states, they're kind of safe states, they call them, where they sort of never change. They're either Democrat or Republican. So for example, pretty much the west coast of the US hasn't changed its vote in the last 20 years. So, you know, if you're tracking the nights on election night, you're tracking the results, and you want to follow along, you can come in here and you can click away at the states you think are going to win, and you can do your own prognostication. So that was 270towin.com. Now, you know, there is so much more that we could talk about when it comes to the election, like swing states and bellwether states, and why Maine and Nebraska apportion their electors based on districts, yet the 48 other states have a winner-take-all approach, or faithless electors who don't vote the will of the people. But, you know, regrettably, we don't have time. So I am going to suggest, if this is a topic that interests you, check out some of the websites here. They are nonpartisan, and they give a lot of good information to help decipher the US election. So before I end tonight, I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciated your attention. And if you wouldn't mind, just in the chat, typing either a word, a phrase, or maybe a number that you learned tonight. And if you're watching on election night, well, I hope your team wins. Thanks very much. $270 to win. Electoral College. All right, guys. So I think that wraps us up for all of our presentations.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
It was really good. I liked
Thanks.
the quiz.